Hello everyone, I'm glad you could join me today. I'll be drawing a little scene for you again, as always. I will use the old eraser, a variety of pencils, and the old smudging tool. So, let's get started. I'll begin by drawing myself my old frame. You can do as I do or just leave it out however you want to draw. It just gives me a nice white frame for the scene in the end. Now, I'll have a horizon line right here, and then I'll go in and make the sky a little gray. Just a little value, because it's not completely white or completely bright. It does have a value that is darker the further you go away from the horizon. So going back and forth, getting lighter as I get towards the horizon, and cross-hatching diagonally. I might stop doing the cross-hatching in the future. It always gives me lines that aren't in accordance with the sky. If you go just left and right, it seems to me like the lines are blurred more easily when I wipe them with the smudging tool afterwards, and I have less strange lines in the sky. Besides, it's very hard to control the pencil like this and make very soft lines. I always end up having those hard lines in the sky if I do this diagonal cross-hatching that I'm doing right now, but it's what it is. It's imperfect. We just go along here. For now, I'm doing it the way I always did it. Going vertically now for the top part of the sky. Contrasts in my drawings. Since the camera is so bad, you can barely see what I'm doing here. Okay, a little darker at the top still. Applying a little more pressure. Going down towards the sky, towards the horizon. Okay, now I take the smudging tool and go right to left, left to right again, from the top towards the horizon line, getting rid of the lines in the sky, making it very smooth, with no texture at all. Okay. That ended up rather nicely. Not as I suspected with the cross-hatching. I thought I'd have more diagonal lines in the sky, but this ended up being really nice. Okay, I'm taking the eraser and just with small circles I am shaking the camera and also erasing this part of the sky where there's a little cloud just strolling along. Now I take the HB pencil. Say the light comes from the top left, so at the bottom right of the cloud we have some shadows, just very flat U shapes. And at the right as well, going into C shapes. More at the bottom than at the top. Alright, and that's the cloud for today. Now for the background, or much rather for the composition today, I want to have a foreground right here, an inclination of a mountain, and then a mountain that goes up in the sky here. More like this, okay. And then a mountain range going in the distance. I do this by drawing a zigzag line going up and down with an inclination to the left that gets flatter and flatter the more I approach the horizon, and then it's just up and down, only going to the left. Make it irregular so it looks like just random mountains at the horizon. Some mountains behind those. There's a big one over here. Some mountains over here. Some coming down here. And some in front. All right. Now from the top of each zigzag, I go down left to complete the shapes of the mountains. Don't even think you can see this. Normally I would leave the sketch very light so that there are no lines in the end. But maybe you can see it, then this is unnecessary, but I'm just going to make those lines very obvious because I want you to see what I'm doing and to be able to follow and maybe learn something. So this is the zigzag line that I created, changing it a little bit here to make it a little bit more irregular. Okay, and then this is where it starts to go only up and down. Yeah, that looks better on the screen. I think you can see this. Okay. Just trying to show you what I'm doing here. The mountain range in the front and the other one in the very front right here. Okay. Now, completing the shapes of the mountains. Let's have some in the background over here as well. Okay. Now, from every... still need some... a line over here to make it three-dimensional. Okay. Now, from every peak of a mountain, there has to be a line for it to be three-dimensional. Just like that. And from the lower part of the zigzag line there can be lines as well. But this is just a very basic layout for a mountain range. In the distance, now from the bottom parts of those zigzag lines, I extend them to go further down to have the mountains reach the plain below them. And they evolve into hills. Let's have another mountain in front of this one. Just a little peak. So you see that you can create any shape you want, can transform them, just have a basic layout and then add details. Alright, over here as well. And the mountains end up being hills right in front here. Just some wavy lines for the hills. With a larger distance between them, the closer you get towards your point of view, towards the observer. Okay. Some more in here. Some more over there. Let's join these to have a valley over there. Alright, and that's the basic layout for my drawing today. So I'll start in the background with the shadow part of the mountains. So I have to keep in mind the light comes from the top left. So for every line that comes from the peak of the mountain to the right side of it, there's the part of the mountain that faces away from the sun. So that's going to be in the shadow, that's going to be darker. Actually, before I do that, I want to have the light side have a little value as well. It's not completely bright. It's very bright, but not as bright as a light reflection. So it has to be a little darker than the white of the page. So I go across the entire mountain range. Could actually go across the entire page since I don't have reflections in here, but for now I'll just do the mountains. Let them have a very bright value that isn't completely white. Okay, now back to those shadows. Trying to make them visible for you with my bad lighting. I just have to up the contrast a little bit so you can see it. Just make them a little darker than I would normally do. Right here, right in front of the other mountain range, the next range of mountains. Let's get this one, and this one, and this one. Everybody has a shadow, just as Carl Jung says. Getting a little psychological over here. All right. Over here again. A little shadow for this one, and for this little fella, and for this one as well. Yeah, I think that comes out rather nicely in the video. I'm checking in between to see what you are seeing to make sure that what I do is visible. Okay. Going to the midground now. Just the same thing. The right parts of the mountains face away from the sun. They're in the shadow. Just going up and down for now. I'm not trying to make those shadows as smooth as possible. If they have a little bit of a structure, that just helps give it a jagged structure afterwards. Okay. Now, I take the smudging tool and pull the shadows of the mountains down into the valley. It's not necessary for those where the base is covered by the other mountains, but the ones here in the front, pull the base down. Make them connect with the plane in front of them. Not too much to be done here. Over here a little bit though. I should segregate those mountains by having maybe the part that is in front every time, making this part darker and the part in the back of the mountain of the shadow side lighter. Does this work out? Maybe there's going to be incongruency with this and the hills in front of the mountains later, but we'll just see. For now, I will separate those mountains by giving them a contrast, just like this. And you don't even see what I'm doing because my hand is covering it. So I'll try to take my left hand to let you see what I'm doing here. The front of each mountain is even darker than the back. So you can see where one mountain starts and the other one ends. This one over here. This one, yeah. This one is separated by the part that is facing the sun, but I'll do this anyway to have congruency in the mountains. Okay, just like this and like that. This one over here as well. Alright, now I take the smudging tool and pull those down into the plane as well. Make a smooth transition into those hills. Now, in the background, I want to give those mountains some more structure. Shouldn't be too much over here. Don't want to exaggerate it. But just some darker areas, some recesses in the lighter areas. Just to give it some more detail. Okay, that's enough. Don't want to overload it. But for the mountains in the midground, I now go in and give the shadow parts some more lines, just random zigzag jagged lines to give the impression of different surfaces and smaller shapes within the mountains. All right. And then same thing in the light part. Those lines have to be lighter over here, since the darkest light values should be brighter than the lightest dark values in the shadows. Okay, just some lines to give it the illusion of detail. Now I'll go into those hills in the plains. I just extend the lines that I made before, extend them down, giving them a little bit more width for now. Just by holding the pencil at a very sharp angle to the paper. Alright, now taking the smudging tool, I pull them down towards the line below them, leaving a light area to separate them, giving the illusion of misty valleys. Okay, just like that. This one as well. Goes down all the way here. This one over here and this one. Alright, now for the hills that are more in the front, you can see the trees that grow here. So I'm making round M shapes just along this line that I indicated before. Make the arches a little random, some smaller, some larger. A line in front of this one, and the next one over here. Random, going over here and over here. Let's have another one here, otherwise this area would feel very empty. Just like so. Smaller one in the front, another one going up the mountain, right over there. One coming out over here. Okay, now for this one I want the trees to be a little larger, since this one is even closer. Having a couple of layers really helps giving the illusion of looking very far into the distance, and making things closer, making things bigger the closer they are to you, really helps giving this illusion. Now, same as for the hills in the distance. Extend those tops of the trees down to the next line. Not entirely yet. The rest is going to be done by the smudging tool. Have another tree line over here. Down there, yes. Extend it all. Let's have some random lines in between those hills just to create the illusion of more detail, more things going on down there. Just some lines. And now this one in the front. Alright, and with the smudging tool again, extend those hills down to the next line, leaving a brighter area to separate them. Okay. Almost done with the midground now. And you can really see it come together. All right. Let's make it a bit more gray. It's very bright down there. Let's dull it down a little bit. Okay. Now we have this big mountain over here. Maybe it's in the midground, maybe it's already the foreground. But let's not be bothered with definitions or opinions. Let's just go in and along the shape of the mountain, just give it some lines, just make it darker. This part of the mountain that we see is all facing away from the sun, so it's all the shadow side. And over here we see more detail at the base of the mountain, so let's have a line over here going up the mountain, and another one maybe over here. Alright. Now I'm just going up and down to make it a little more dark. And as a separation, I think, yeah, the top part, let's make the top darker than the bottom. So this, all this part over here, up here, is going to be dark. And it's going to get lighter towards the next line, but it's all going to have this HB pencil value, let's call it. Just roughly fill that in. It's all going to be at least as dark as the HB graphite, so I really don't have to worry about leaving anything light right now. Alright, now in this plane we're going to have some more contrast than in the mid and in the background. So we start to take the 3B pencil and just make this side of the mountain rather dark. And all the upper parts are going to be dark as well. And right at the base I'll have some more trees, I guess. Yeah, let's have the trees over here. So let's have them up there. And down here. Now at this part you can already see different segments of the trees because we're so close. Alright. Making the upper parts darker, darker, darker. And I'm making straight lines, interrupting them and going a little back and forth to create the illusion of many planes and details going on at this side of the mountain. Darker up here and lighter as we approach the next layer, that is this line down here. Okay, let's do the same thing for this layer down here. Let's make this edge really jagged and rocky. This one as well, going up here. Dark up here and lighter as we approach the next layer. Pay some attention to the trees, following those shapes of the treetops. Give him some trunks, tree trunks they stand on, and give them something to stand on the mountain. Now the foliage. Darker at the bottom right, brighter at the top left. Okay, some more trunks over here. All right. Just some random lines over here. What the hell? Just whatever structure the mountain has. And for those trees, just basic tree shapes. I'm getting a call, be right back. Some random woman. She just had the wrong number. It happens. It happens. Okay. Let's continue with the trees. Darker at the bottom, lighter towards the top. Could be mushrooms as well, giant mushrooms. As little attention to detail as I'm paying right now. Let's extend them to the bottom of the page. Just fill that in. So it doesn't look empty. All right. And that's that done. Now we have this part of the foreground right here. And as always, I just give it a general gray value. Just like so. Everything about evenly gray. Doesn't matter too much. And now the upper parts are hit by the sunlight more, so now it's not the upper parts that are darker than the ones below them, but the ones below are darker than the upper parts. So let's block that in really quickly. Just give the lower part of this hillside a darker value than the upper part. And where they overlap over here, there's again a lower part of the hill behind the one in the foreground, so there's a little ditch with a darker value. Okay. Let's give some more waves in the ground. Random lines here and there. Okay, now to the 3B pencil, making the lower part even darker. And then paying attention to those waves in the ground. Now starting from the top of the one line, extending it upwards now, leaving the upper part of the wave in the ground a little brighter. Just like that. Oh, this is a steep bump. It got rather dark over here, but that's just what the landscape's going to be like then. Let's have another steep part here. Okay, some more over here. And then we're done with the basic layout of this mountainside or hillside. Now we want to give it some structure, some details. And here we are close enough to be able to see the grass. Let's make it rather tall. It's a meadow, untamed in the mountains. It's not a lawn. Now comes the tedious part. Just blades of grass, blades of grass, blades of grass, all over the place, following those lines that we made earlier to keep the illusion of unevenness in the terrain. Just testing out if you can hear the strokes of the pencil on the paper. So it's not completely silent when I don't talk. Testing if this format that I'm trying out right here can be used as an ASMR. Without me talking. Just with the sound the pencil makes on the paper. Also, sometimes I don't know what I should say. Then I can just let the pencil talk, maybe. Just trying things out, learning as I go along. Alright, some even taller grass over here. And up at the top. A little bit more over here. And then maybe down here. Make it go out of the frame. So it looks like you actually drew a real landscape that continues out of the frame, out of where you were drawing. Make it go out of the frame to the right as well, just like that. Okay, some more lines. Just for a little bit of detail. Rather random. So you can say, look at how much attention I paid to detail. All right. Now let's add a couple of flowers here. And really tall grasses. Just make some very long lines and some points at the top for the flower. And some large blades coming out at the side. Another type of flower over here with some petals. Let's put some together. They grow all together over here. They're a little family. Okay, and that's it for the painting today. The drawing today. I'll clean up the edges, make them nice and even as possible, and as straight as possible. Doesn't really matter if they're bent though, since we drew it all by hand, didn't use any rulers, and no straight edges to help us. So of course it's going to be a little uneven, a little organic. Alright, brush that off, shake it off. A little bit of graphite here still. Okay, let's sign this. And yeah, thank you for tuning in, thank you for watching. I hope you could learn something or relax a little bit while you followed. Maybe you just had it running in the background. That's totally fine. As long as it gave you something. That's all I want. All right. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you the next time. Bye bye.